Hello and welcome to One on One on Plus TV Africa. Here with me in the studio is Bolanle Austin Peters. She's a lawyer and a businesswoman. She studied law at the University of Lagos and earned a master's degree from the London School of Economics. She started her career in law, working with her father's law firm before joining the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights in Switzerland. She set up TerraCulture in 2003, and she has been extremely active in the rediscovery of theatre production in Nigeria as it was gradually fading away. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the theatre space in Nigeria. Prior to now, it was fading away, but then now we're seeing a revamp in the sector. Can you tell us what exactly is happening in the sector right now?
I think there's a lot of activities in the space. More theatre production companies are springing up. We tend to have something called Theatre at TerraCulture, which shows every Sunday throughout the year. So you'll always find something showing from different production houses. I think the important thing is to note that things are changing. Theatre is on the upward climb, trend, so to speak, and yeah, we're exporting our plays as well to other countries. We've been to London, to Egypt, to South Africa, and the welcoming has been incredible.
Fantastic. I know that Nigeria, Africa as a whole, has interesting stories to share with the world. But then looking at that space exactly, we know that it's quite capital intensive,
yes,
and requires a lot of infrastructure. So how are you able to juggle around all of these things to still make it a success?
Yeah, I mean, with everything, there's always the downside. Nigeria is a difficult place to do anything, to be quite honest. So,
unfortunately,
yes, theatre is not peculiar to anything to Nigeria in the sense that everything is problematic. But there are people that are making things work in politics, in education, in health. You still find the one oddity. So I think we're just one of those rare breeds who have decided that we're going to stay here and we're going to ensure that things work. We're going to ensure that, you know, we do things at the right level. And I think that's also what you find when you come into this kind of studio. Things are beautiful, in spite of the difficulties that the average entrepreneur comes across. We do what we have to do to survive in Nigeria, sadly.
Unfortunately. But the equity. How are you able to source for equity? And not just sourcing for it, but then being able to pay back?
So when we started TerraCulture, we did, it was an investment by other shareholders. So I formed a company, a limited liability company. So what we did was everybody had shares in it. So equity, like you said, I didn't go for debts because in the art space it's difficult to fund arts programs, correct? So it'll be very, very impossible. So that's what I did. And as we progressed along, I've used that model. Even in this movie industry, instead of me looking for people to borrow money so I just formed a partnership. So everybody put money into a pot, and voila, we're doing movies.
You make it sound so easy, but then
I know it's not easy. Look, it's not easy, but the truth is, it's mind over matter. You have to set your mind to wanting to do something, and you have to work tenaciously at it, and you have to also be willing to always change when you see that the formula isn't working. It's
not working.
So I'm constantly trying to understand the space called Nigeria, and especially the Nigerian art space, how to make it a successful business venture for us. And right now for us, that's the bottom line. It is business. And as much as I love arts, you must be able to pay your bills. So we ensure that whatever it is that we do, we're able to break even, and we'll be able to ensure that jobs are created. And that's what drives me.
Exactly. I like the fact that you are business, focused, because sometimes you may get carried away with the glitz and glam that comes with it. How are you able to manage your books?
You know, I'm set up as a business, so I have my different units, the accounting units. That's their job. Their job is to ensure that we break even, we make profit. So whenever we do a project, I don't know, maybe all artists do this, but what we do is we sit down and we analyze what are the revenue streams. How much are you going to get back? How much are you spending?
Yes.
If there's a strong likelihood that we're not going to be able to break even, We don't
do it, no matter how fancy it looks.
So the projections are always there. So for the movie, for instance, there was a ceiling of how much we're going to spend, and there was a projection of how much we're going to make from each revenue stream that we had identified. And I think we're fine.
So, and I think that's one mistake that a number of people in this space, the entertainment space, I think that's one mistake they make, because sometimes they're carried away with the excitement and the glitz and glam that comes with it, and forgetting that it's still a business and still needs to be run as a business, right? So how do you extrapolate your return on investment before carrying out a project? We have established the fact that Nigeria is quite uncertain, especially the business space. You might have created something in 2016, your return on investment was fantastic, but then you're not sure if you're still going to get the same thing if you create it in 2018. Absolutely. How are you able to measure these metrics? So
what I said is exactly, we do the same thing. Each product, even if I'm bringing back Saru the musical, for instance, or Morimi the musical. If I'm bringing it back, we sit like we're doing a brand new project. So every time we go out, we ask ourselves, are we going to be able to break even first?
Yes.
Right? So once we're able to say, okay, these are our sources of revenue, this is what we're going to be able to achieve, we always use the lowest possible conservative estimate in terms of return, so that whatever happens, once we hit that benchmark, we said, okay, it's good to go, let's do it. But if we know that it's a negative, I don't even bother. I don't.
Interesting. Have you always had the entrepreneurial spirit in you? Because you studied law.
Yes. I guess you don't know what you have in you till you try. It wasn't like I started out wanting to be an entrepreneur. I studied law. And today I find myself doing this, and I love what I do now. So it wasn't a case of, oh, I plan to go and direct, or I plan to produce. I'm a very spontaneous person. I don't plan like some people have 10-year plans, 20 years. I don't do things like that. You know, I roll with the punches. My life story is I wake up, I live for today, and hope that tomorrow will be fine by the grace of God. So I'm never nervous or anxious about tomorrow. You know, people have those anxieties. Yes. I don't have them, because I've been able to master my emotions and my spirituality to a very large extent when I was younger. So for me, it's a question of, okay, what I'm doing today, let me do it well. Hopefully it will provide for my tomorrow. But I'm not, I don't sit down, you know, some people are like, oh, in 10 years' time, I'm going to become this. No. I'm going to be whatever it is I'm going to become on that day. But right now, I'm living my best life.
Ooh.
That's what I know. That's it.
So do you have daily rituals that you must do once you wake up in the morning, or how does it work with you?
I mean, with everybody, I wake up, I love exercising. So it's one thing that I can't do without. So I wake up, I go downstairs, I do gym we have one in the building. So I go downstairs, at times I walk around, at times I swim. So that's a daily thing apart from Sundays. And then that is the time that I create in the mornings. That's when it's quiet. So it's my own time between 4 and 6. So that works for me. Other than that, I'm pretty bored. My job is really what excites me. I look forward to going to the office. I look forward to meeting my colleagues at work. You know, our place is a public space, so I meet so many people on a daily basis. So it's social, and you interact with so many people from different backgrounds, different outlooks. So I learned so much just by being at TerraCulture.
You're still watching One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we'll have Bolanle Austin Peters tell us about her experiences while she worked with the United Nations. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. All right, Bolanle, tell us about your experience while you worked with the United Nations.
I mean, that's a while ago. I worked in Geneva for a bit. With the Center for Human Rights. So basically you sat at all these meetings where you had to draft laws, you know, the rights of the child and the policies. So basically that's what we did there. Then I moved to Ethiopia, where I worked as a lawyer working with refugees from the Sudan. It was a very, very intense, very emotional, very painful experience watching the pain of Africans, because that's what our leaders cause us when they're responsible. So you have all these families crossing the borders from Sudan into Ethiopia. So I'm the legal officer called the protection officer. So I have to give people refugee status. And at times you have camps of over 60,000 people. Some camps that I covered 20, some 10. I covered 3 camps. Vunido, Bonga, I can't remember the name of the third one now. And yeah, so you work with children, you see people in pain. It's not a good time. It's not a good place to be in.
So what's your take on the current situation of internally displaced children in Nigeria? Because it has become a menace.
You know, the thing is, again, it's a question of, you know, nothing works. So those of us that are lucky are very lucky. These children are not, they're not in a position to defend themselves. They're not, the families are also disenfranchised in this space. So people suffer. That's what happens when there's irresponsible leadership, which is what we've had in Nigeria for decades. They don't care. So it's going to get worse, except we have responsible leadership. That's it.
So how do you help tell these stories while, you know, reeling out some of these plays that go on in the theatre?
I think what it is, you know, when you face, I saw Ife wear a t-shirt about suffering sort of like enhances the character of a human being. Is that you see things, you learn from being exposed to different types. The problem with a lot of us is our lives are monodimensional. So you end up just living in a bubble of wealth and, you know, glam. You don't see the other side of life. So you're not a well-rounded human being. So when you go into situations like this, you understand that the same people like yourself, for no fault of theirs, they're suffering. They wear the same clothes for a year. They don't have 2 clothes to change. They get food only based on what the United Nations gives them, you know, packets of protein. And if there's no food, if there's rain, heavy rainfall, and there's a mudslide, we don't get to the camps, they don't eat. So the same situation will be happening to us now in Nigeria. The more internally displaced people that you have, the same scenario. They'll be in camps. Imagine being in a camp. A lot of people don't understand what it means to be in a camp, and a lot of people don't understand what war is. So when people propagate they've never seen one, they can't understand. You need to hear or see it.
Experience it.
To know that you will not wish a war, or wish to be a refugee, or wish to be an internally displaced person, even for your worst enemy. It's a horrible place to be in. So the more we just begin to act the way we're acting, you know, the
lackadaisical nature and
the prognosis is bad. It's not good.
We have those in the entertainment industry trying to reel out movies, you know, tell these stories. We also have the NGOs that have these people. So is there like a thin line? Where's that bridge where we start to collaborate with these people?
Oh, I see. I guess, you know, the thing about telling our stories, I think, is that these kind of stories ought to be told as well. So we did a movie called 93 Days 3 years ago now about that. And it was about the Ebola crisis. It was more educational than it was a feature film. It was for us to tell people how the Ebola crisis started and how it came into Nigeria and what you needed to do to survive it. And that's what we did. It was based on a true story. And what happened with that, it was a collaborative effort between a lot of NGOs, a lot of foundations. So Ford Foundation, Danjuma, Dangote, WAPIC, so many people gave us money to put that story out there. And I think a lot more will be done going forward when we have stories that we want to tell. So I'm sure if somebody wanted to do a documentary or a film on the IDPs, I'm sure they'll get funding very easily. But, you know, these are strong, powerful stories. And I think that our movie-making industry and our theatrical performances also need to bring on board some of this. And I think a lot of people are doing that already. I think so. Yeah.
All right, and then when some critics say that our film industry, Nollywood and Kannywood, are still very pedestrian when it comes to production, storytelling and directing as well, would you say they are being fair or too harsh?
No, I don't think, you know, truth of the matter is Rome was not built in a day.
Yes, true.
Nollywood, hate it or love it, is probably one of your greatest exports in Nigeria. The stars, the industry, without anybody's support, has grown. Those who started out there today are the ones that have sold Nigeria more than politics or what have you out there. You go to anywhere in the world. The first thing they talk about is your Nollywood and our music. And it's got nothing to do with government or with wealthy Nigerians. It's got nothing to do with them. So it's easy to sit by the side and complain and criticize and do nothing. I could sit by the sidelines and keep complaining about this industry. But what we do is every time somebody steps into the ring to do something, you add value, you bring your own angle to it. So if you know so much more, join in and make it better. That's what I say about anything. Politics, we complain, all of us, we complain, but we're not willing to pay the price to jump into that ring. So I've stopped complaining about them. I just do what I can do to influence my own small space. Yes.
Very true, very true. And then you moved into the world of movie production, especially with your new film that's just coming out, right?
Yes.
What do you think can be done to improve our cinema experience here in Nigeria?
Well, you know, it's funding. You can have great roads in Nigeria. You can have nice aeroplanes. You can have everything nice, hospitals, schools. It's funding. You need the monies to do these things at the level that they're being done everywhere else in the world. But the amount of funding available for the entertainment industry is paltry if you compare it to what other people spend in other parts of the world. So you do a movie in Nigeria for $100,000 or $50,000. People are spending billions to make movies, millions to make movies, of dollars to make movies elsewhere in the world. And we're comparing ourselves to them. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Who are we fooling? So for as long as we're not able to fund things adequately, we're not going to get to the right level of excellence that we're looking to achieve. So when people criticize and complain, I keep telling them that you can't spend 1 naira and expect to get the quality of 10 naira. It's not possible, you know? So until when we get to that place where we realize that we need to put our monies where our mouths are and we need to encourage certain industries to grow, we'll keep churning out very average work.
This is clear. I mean, there are certain things that are beyond our control, right? But then we still have people that have good content, good stories.
Yes.
Is it that the production process is still a bit faulty? Because some people still feel like we can be better. Some of the movies that we're churning out can still be better.
Yes. I think, again, like I said, there are loads of beautiful movies out there. 93 Days went to about 7 film festivals. You don't get to international film festivals if your quality is bad because they invite you. So Toronto, Chicago, LA, South Africa, the Germans, they invited 93 Days because the quality was that high. But then 93 Days also cost a lot of money relative to what you spend in Nigeria. So when you say good, there's still people producing good. Yes, good, but still they had to spend a little bit more than what most filmmakers or theater performers are spending right now. How do you do a movie for 5 million naira and you expect it to be nice? Or 10 million, or you tell people to spend 5 million naira doing a stage production. It doesn't even cover basic things. So you suddenly, except it's a monologue, where you want one individual to stand and be talking, then, you know, fair enough, you can have that kind of quality. So honestly, there's certain things you just need to spend on, and that's why there are budgets. There are budgets for things everywhere in the world, except here where people just think, oh, I want to do this, so they just do it for the fun of it. But really, we have a long ways to go, but we'll get there.
Hopefully someday, somehow.
Yes.
And on storylines, do you think, personally, do you think that we still churn out very faulty storylines?
Script writing is very difficult. It's still, you know, very basic right now in Nigeria. So that's an area that you need a lot more people that are skilled in. So there's some good writers out there, but they're in the minority. So that's the problem you're having.
What can we do to improve this particular situation?
Again, it's a question of education, experience, exposure. You know, those are the things that affect quality of work most times, you know. So if people get the right kind of education, they get the right of exposure to how to write, we'll get better writing materials. But most people don't. So there's a way you write a legal brief. With time, the better you get better when you do it more and more. You know what I mean? And you get work under people who are experienced. But we don't have that many. So people don't have mentors. So it's difficult to get to that point of excellence.
All right, and some people still complain about, or some people feel that there's still a level of bureaucracy within this space. Are you also of the school of thought?
I'm a director and a producer, so I'm probably at the top, so I probably won't know what others are feeling.
At the lower
yes, I probably will not know that. But I'm sure there's bureaucracy everywhere, every sector, I'm sure.
All right, I hope that at some point we would get better and we'll always keep improving. Yes. And we love what you're doing at TerraCulture as well. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
And thank you for staying with us here on Plus TV Africa. Remember, you can always tune in on Star Times channel 308, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I remain your host, Irene Ubani. Thanks for watching. Bye.